Most organizations are immune to theft and fraud, particularly in its logistics operations, which is disastrous to financial and reputational of the company. What is theft? Theft of inventory is stealing someone's property with the intent to permanently deprive them of it. It means to say, in logistics, theft of inventory is unauthorized withdrawal of merchandise without proper documentation and approval from the proper authority. What are the various means of stealing? There are various means of stealing. Number one is overshipments. Overshipments, when the outbound personnel connive with dealers or end user to ship more than what is required legally. Short receipt involves the inbound personnel or the receiving clerk conniving with the delivery personnel from the supplier side and our receiving clerk. Substitution is buying class A or high grade materials, substituting low grade materials. So a good example is the stainless steel. There is a high grade for stainless steel which is SS304, that is the high grade, and the low grade is SS204, wherein the difference is 50,000 pesos. SS304 high grade stainless costs 85,000 pesos, while the SS stainless steel 204, the low grade, is only 34,000 pesos as far as I know. One of the various means of fraud is reclassification of item from class A to class B, buying class A materials or merchandise, but the supplier is giving us class B which is with slightly defects or scratches or factory defect. So from A they reclass it to class B, which is more cheaper. We paid for class A, but they are giving us the class B, which is of inferior quality and of lower price. But who is the real threat inside the warehouse? Companies are hiring more physical guard for their warehouse facilities. They put more on CCTVs, not knowing that the real threat are insider. That's why who is the real threat inside the warehouse? Actually, it's the insider, because the insider has the access to the facility, records, documentation, and to the merchandise. So they are most of the time the culprit based on the research done by the council. Why people commit fraud or why people steal? People steal because of three factors. The triangle of fraud describes the three factors. The culprit commit or steal the merchandise because there is a need. A need, usually we call it greed. There is the opportunity. The opportunity is weak systems of control. They can manipulate records and there is no regular or surprise audit. Third is rationalization. They can rationalize that the company is earning more and they are only getting small salary. So this is the triangle of fraud. If one of the factors is missing, there will be no fraud. Just like a fire, it needs the fire, the material, and the oxygen. How can we prevent fraud and theft in warehouse and logistics? Actually, there are basic solutions that can be done by the management or the warehouse manager himself. First, effective supervision. That the warehouse leader or officer should have the hands-on inspection of all inbound and outbound transactions. His presence or her presence is much needed, including his visibility in the operation. Second, observe proper segregation of roles and duties among warehouse logistics staff. Receiving clerk should not collaborate or intervene with issue clerk or outbound personnel. Third, it requires tandem checking by guard on duty and warehouse receiving staff. The management should observe proper segregation of roles and duties among warehouse logistics staff, and long-term basis hire the right person for the logistics, because the job in the logistics department is a person of trust. By the way, I would like to include the MBWA. The management should practice MBWA, or management by walking around inside the warehouse. He should be the first person inside the warehouse and should be the last person to get out of the warehouse after the office hour. How about the security of high value items? We cannot avoid that the company is maintaining high value items, small and high value, which is packetable. So it requires lockable steel cabinets and lockers for high value items. Second, separate storeroom with limited access to warehouse personnel. Inventory monitoring and random audit should be done for high value items. What are the signs of red flags inside the logistics? What are red flags? Red flags provide indicators of possible fraudulent activity for various business transactions and purchasing process, inventory receipt, and control. These are symptoms of fraudulent activities. So there is a red flag if employees have the cover up capabilities and in a position of trust. Usually, employees who have the cover up capabilities are those who have more than 10 years in the same position without job rotation. Next, suspicious supplier-buyer relationships, including warehouse officers. So, the suspicious relationship is accepting gift or getting closer with suppliers, or developing personal relationship instead of business relationship. Next, signs of red flag that the company do not train and orient their staff with regards to ethics and fraud prevention. This applies to warehouse, logistics, and purchasing personnel, including audit. Another signs of red flags, there is a sign of red flag or symptoms of fraudulent activities if there is a high turnover of logistics staff. This is a warning signal if there is a high turnover of logistics personnel. Signs of red flag, this is what I mentioned before. Employees who stay for more than 10 years in one job is considered to be a red flag or a high risk employee. He has the capability to cover up and to manipulate documents and transactions. Another signs of red flag is the hiring process. Weakness in hiring and inadequate staff screening policies to fill positions of trust like in logistics, purchasing, and warehouse. Another sign of red flag is no regular job rotation procedure. Job rotation should be a common practice to warehouse and purchasing department. Another signs of red flags comes from the top management. There is no disclosure of SALN or statement of assets and liabilities for executives and managers, and a dishonest or overly dominant management. Management should be a good example of for honesty and integrity, just like the case of no gift giving policy. This applies to all from top to bottom. Otherwise, there will be an overly dominant management who are exempted from the policies that we have prepared. Signs of red flag: we are always on a crisis basis. Operating on a crisis basis, it means that we do not have a procurement plan and inventory control. So, crisis basis, whenever there is an urgent requirement, we try to shortcut the process or procedure because we are always in urgent. Urgency is a part of crisis basic. So when there is a requisition, usually they put urgent. There is no such thing as urgent if all procurement and requirements are planned. Let's continue with the sign of red flags. Auditors, there is no attention paid to details. No attention paid to details. It means to say, we try to neglect small things, just like neglecting an error. But actually, this is something to be investigated. Small error, big errors, small amount, big amount, we have to pay details or attention to it. Next sign of red flag is the poor compensation practices. This is something to do with the salaries, benefits, and allowances of the personnel in the warehouse, logistics, and purchasing. However, compensation is not the ultimate solution. It is the behavior that we have to check. Lack of internal security system. Lack of internal security. In our organization itself, we have a problem with regards to security. How much more with the external? What I mean is that we may not have the proper policy and guidelines for the operation. Policy and procedure. Inadequate training program for personnel of warehouse, logistics, and purchasing. They all belong to supply chain management. What is the proactive solution to inventory theft? Number one is soft internal control. This has something to do with leadership and behavior. And then there should be effective supervision. Cycle counting frequency should be practiced. Proper stock arrangement should be implemented, observed, and monitored if the warehouse is properly arranged, including its stocks and merchandise. Job rotation should be a common practice to develop different skills among employees, not to be an expert in one job. They should be jack of all trades, and they should never master one job only or one skill. Hands-on inspection should be done. Instead of surprise inspection, it should be done regularly during the operation. Next, review aging policy, procedure, and personnel. Maybe the policy is no longer applicable. There are some policies, procedures that was created 10 years ago. Now, everything is changing. The price of the items, the layout, sometimes the facilities, including personnel. There are some who have transferred, who have resigned, who have retired. So we have to review our personnel policy and procedure. They might not be applicable right now. Every year we should review. If all these things have been done properly, still we are encountering losses, fraud, and theft. We have to totally revamp. Revamp means change all the people from top to bottom. This is a serious matter to be practiced. As much as possible, soft internal control system and effective supervision and cycle counting frequency. These three should be the proactive solution already to stop or deter theft. Internal loss prevention checklist. What are the things to be done, or the checklist? What are the checklists to prevent fraud or losses? Train and motivate all warehouse staff to comply with established policies and procedures. This is a part of the internal control system. The established policies and procedure. If somebody violated the policy and not complied with the procedure, this is already a sign of red flag that losses, fraud might possibly happen. So this is already a sign. Compliance with policies and procedures that are existing. Check salary scheme for a position in trust. Salary, benefits, and rewards should be considered in maintaining a healthy and secured warehousing operations, from training, motivation, and career growth. So I think the HR and the management should check on it and develop a culture of honesty among employees from top to bottom, and do not tolerate any wrongdoings and report any non-compliance to the policy. Report it to the management. So develop a culture of honesty. Number one, from top to bottom. No gift giving policy should be complied with from top to bottom, whatever the value is. No gift giving policy. The end user has no right to deal with outside suppliers. It is the purchasing management and the QC manager who should be dealing with supplier. No, actually it should be the purchasing manager or procurement manager who should be dealing with supplier. In cases of specification, the purchasing manager can invite the quality control manager representing the end users to discuss about specs of the items they need. Security assessment in warehousing. Management should periodically conduct a security assessment of the physical warehouse facilities, layout, its manpower, and procedure. I think this is similar to what we had discussed a while ago. The physical facilities should be inspected with regards to its drainage, entrance, exit, and then the layout of the comfort room, the layout of the locker room, and the storeroom, where should be located. There should be no locker room should be out of the warehouse, including toilet should be out of the warehouse. It should be adjacent. The warehouse is only for products and merchandise. Review your policy, procedure, and all people engaged in the operation. Reviewing relevant materials, that is incident and activity reports, crime statistics, policies and procedures, plans, layouts, and design, police report, emergency and crisis plan, and etc. So review all incident and activities and crimes in our operations. I think this is a matter of review and monitoring. Okay guys, thank you for viewing. Again, this is Professor ReyDev. If you have some more question, you can email me or you can put at the comment box what is your problem to your company with regard to supply chain and logistics, and we will answer it as soon as we can. So try to subscribe and like or give comments to our mini lecture. Thank you very much.